The COVID-19 pandemic has completely changed our lives. Take something as fundamental as our experiences with communication. Our relationship with voice and video chat is changing. Once upon a time, I can remember when our shift lead and site manager team gathered once a month for our in-person division all hands. We were always super excited about these meetings. We are hosting these meetings virtually and connecting with even more people nowadays. We have been able to connect with people that are miles and miles away. I've even seen virtual happy hours, virtual meditation groups, you name it. And then, of course, there's virtual presentations. Virtual presentations can be used for business meetings with colleagues and hosting training sessions. This real-time and fast-growing way to conduct meetings cannot be ignored anymore. People still feel connected no matter their location. But how does this connect to you? Let's talk more about why you are here. My name is Kayla, and I'm the area manager in Rochester, New York. The New England and Upstate New York area manager team have decided to pursue virtual presentations as a way to foster and further professional development for you and your shift lead team. We have put together 9 different core education pathways, along with courses you can leverage from each branch of the learning tree. We anticipate over 30 courses available for professional development. We are calling this Field Ops University. Field Ops University is an innovative way for site managers to foster their own development while leading virtual development courses for their shift leads. The coursework was arranged by area managers and will focus on the development of the core competencies. It is important for site managers to understand that there are going to be challenges that come with virtual presenting, but you can overcome these challenges. In today's presentation, I'm going to review virtual presentation best practices so you will be successful and confident during every course you present. So, let's talk about what you will need for this virtual presentation. 1, you'll need yourself. 2, some time to focus on the material being presented. 3, a notebook and a pen to take notes. Let's go ahead and get started. Always remember that a virtual presentation is still a presentation. I learned a cool acronym that could help us be ready for virtual presentations. It's PACES, P-A-C-E-S. The first letter is P. That stands for plan. Plan your virtual presentation. The key to an excellent presentation is a solid plan. You have to plan the time, the location, and the software to use and any backup plan you may need. The best thing to do is think ahead of all of the things you need before the presentation and execute. If your planning is done the right way, your virtual presentation should be seamless. The next letter is A. That's for the audience. A lot of people fear virtual presentations even more than regular presentations. The reason is because in real presentations, at least you see who you're talking with. In a virtual presentation, a lot of times you don't get to see them. As a result, you end up speaking into an audience with no feedback. When your brain does not get the feedback it needs, it creates all sorts of scary scenarios. You don't want that. So let me share my personal experience with you. When you're about to present, your heart starts to thump. You start talking a mile a minute. It's like the words are a flood that you can't stop pouring out. You finish what should have been a 20-minute presentation in about 7 minutes. And as you sit down shaking, nobody has any idea what you said. So it's important when crunch time finally arrives, do some relaxation exercises and try to keep it cool. You can find many of these on youtube.com. Remember that you will have the tendency to speed up and that adrenaline may be affecting your perception of the time. Talk a little slower than you actually think you need to, even if it ends up being slower than your actual speech. It will keep you from appearing nervous and rushed. If you control the pace of your presentation and pause appropriately, your presentation is likely to be more successful. You will appear more confident and your audience will be able to understand and connect with your message. Vary your pitch and volume and maintain your energy so people keep engaged. A monotone voice and constant rambling will only cause your audience to switch off. The C stands for content. Content is king in the virtual landscape. In the live presentations, you keep people's attention with your eye contact, body language, and your movement on stage sometimes. You can't do any of that in a virtual environment. Therefore, you should consider using a wide variety of media types to keep and attract attention. These include, but are not limited to, links, images, screen sharing, videos, and slides. Carefully designing your content is the key to keeping your virtual presentation interesting. To keep your information clear and concise and visually appealing, try to simplify that data point using compelling imagery and avoid overloading text. A dynamic presentation is an impressive presentation, so use a variety of media, images, and graphics to keep your audience attention. Also, information overload and endless slides are a sure way to lose your audience, so be sure to stay on point and have a clear focus. It's also important to not overload the slides. Keep your slides simple. Avoid too many words, graphics, animation features. Less is sometimes more. The transitions are critical. You must connect what you just said to what is coming next when you move from point to point. Transitions between topic and slides are good opportunities to keep people re-engaged to your talk. You'll feel empowered to create an eye-catching visual that will engage your audience long after the presentation is over. The E stands for engagement. Engagement will captivate your audience. Take advantage of your virtual presentation to make your audience feel like they are right there sitting next to you every time you present. Use live Q&As, surveys, polling, and chats, among other engagement technologies, and your audience will be far more involved in your presentation. However, don't do engagement for the sake of engagement. Sometimes presenters use silly questions just for the sake of having people interact. Only use interactivity and engagement when it adds value to the audience. The last one is socialization. This is very important, especially for virtual presentations. We human beings are social creatures. We like to be individuals and we like to be a part of groups. It is easy to lose the socialization effect when you are communicating with the camera on your laptop. The camera becomes a barrier between you and the audience. To minimize this anti-socialization effect, you have to utilize your language more efficiently to create a more intimate dialogue. I know it sounds complex, but it's very simple. Don't freak out. To create an individualized, intimate sense, use the word you as if you are speaking to one person instead of saying, "Can everyone out there hear me?" That implies a disconnect. But you can use, "Can you hear me?" instead. You see, that's a big difference. But the effect is significant. If you suggest through your language that you are speaking to a group of fragmented people, then your effect of reaching the individual gets diminished. If you are talking to your team virtually, make sure you use the word we as much as you can. Remember, we as humans like to be individuals, but we also like to be a part of a group. Using you taps into the individual need, and using we taps into the group need. The message you deliver must resonate well with the audience with whom you're presenting it to. Therefore, it's helpful to follow the PACES concept when preparing for your presentation. So as long as you know how to keep your virtual audience engaged, you can be sure that the presentation will be well received. Aside from that acronym, creating a winning virtual presentation is to choose which presentation software you'll use. Some examples include PowerPoint, Google Slides, and even Keynote. Using a presentation software allows you to be able to communicate in an organized and digestible way, engage listeners of your presentation visually and orally, provide the slide deck as a post-presentation resource, and convert listeners to leads through interest and engagement. So there are some other tips and techniques. Identify the purpose for your presentation. Make sure you know why you're presenting. No one wants to hear a presentation, virtual or otherwise, that has no real purpose. Identifying the purpose of your presentation is critical for knowing how to construct it and deliver it. Know your audience. Find out as much as possible about your audience. Does this mean conducting a poll or Google survey beforehand? Next, organize your presentation. Choose a pattern that suits your topic. For instance, problem and solution, past, present, and future, theory and practice, or whatever works for you. Make sure that your audience can easily follow your message. Another important aspect is considering the agenda. The audience wants to know what will happen and when. An agenda makes it easier for audience members to keep track of the presentations. Be sure to write an introduction and conclusion. Just because a presentation is virtual doesn't mean it doesn't need an opening and a closing. The introduction has to preview and lead into your talk, and the conclusion has to wrap all of that up. You may want to provide materials in advance. This allows the audience to become familiar with the proceedings beforehand and get more out of the team. You can easily distribute materials via email. Providing support materials such as presentation notes and outlines in advance also helps attendees get more out of your presentation. Don't forget to be proactive in guiding audience attention. Presenters should assume that some people are multitasking during an online presentation. You have to ask what the audience is taking away if at times they only glance at what you're presenting. One thing you can do is to make sure that the titles on your slides are more descriptive and capture the main point of the slide. Use your voice to guide viewer attention. So you might say something like, what do you see below the picture of the banana on this slide? Or look at the data on the right-hand portion of the slide. Ask pointed questions to avoid too many people answering at once. For example, you might ask, are there any questions? But try to make that, who has a question about the solution I provided? Set a ground rule that people state their names prior to speaking. Feel free to encourage your audience to also use the chat. When delivering training virtually, you are competing with a highly distracting on-screen environment. In other words, it is much harder to keep your audience's attention. To cut through the noise and win, your virtual presentation needs to hook your audience from the start. Keep them engaged to deliver a highly memorable message to drive lasting behavior change. This might come as a shock, but when you're delivering a virtual presentation in a virtual meeting, your viewers are doing something other than giving you their full attention, as I stated before. First, let me give you some tough love. A lot of people only care about themselves. So, they care about their hopes, their goals, and their dreams. Psychologists and researchers have found that the motivations that drive most people fall into small categories. In business, most people are motivated to achieve a purpose, make money, save money, gain status, fame, power, or recognition. Many sub-goals are also motivations but fall into those big categories. For example, if someone expresses the goal of getting promoted, what they really want is more money, status, and recognition. Many employees express the desire to be a part of a company that has a social conscience to do the right thing. The desire is a part of a larger motivation to live a life of purpose. In a virtual presentation, make your audience know exactly what's in it for them and make it very clear in the first 30 seconds. For example, in today's presentation, I'm going to help you better understand the quality drivers with a specific focus on showing you how to decrease your unrequested refunds to achieve your incomplete delivery goal of 12% in 2 weeks. You'll note that I was very specific. People are more likely to pay attention if they see a specific reason for your presentation and not something vague, like do better at your job. Don't give your virtual listeners an opportunity to tune out. Appeal to their motivations in the first 30 seconds and they will hang on to your every word. Watch how you position yourself on the camera. Don't position yourself in front of bright windows which will place you in shadows. Light yourself well and from above. Remember to look straight into your camera and not the screen. Raising your laptop so the camera is at eye level or higher is also helpful. Wear clothing that is neutral in color, no plaids or stripes. Be mindful of what appears behind you in the background. Zoom has the ability to add a virtual background. You can choose one if you like and make sure it is in a professional setting. Remember that your virtual presentation is a performance, so make sure you know how to make it work. Grab a friend, peer, or even partner. A dry run through it can make you more comfortable with the platform you are using. You can even record yourself using the recording feature of the tool you're using. Watch and listen to learn what works for you and what you can improve on. It's best to have a co-host or a moderator assist you with the technology portion as well. They can deal with technology issues and even share your presentation, so you are able to connect with the audience. When giving a virtual presentation, eliminate any distractions and pay attention to your audience. Prepare your setting by avoiding noisy environments that could potentially deviate their attention. If attendees are wearing headphones, these noises can even be more distracting. So have your audience mute themselves. This one might come as a given, but punctuality is crucial for any personal endeavor as it reflects professionalism and commitment. Make sure you are on time for your virtual presentation and don't keep your audience waiting. After your presentation, follow up with a thank you note, a survey, or reading material. With that in mind, I'd like to wrap up my virtual presentation. I would like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. This video will be followed by a quiz to ensure your understanding of virtual presentations. We are looking forward to your success with the Field Ops University platform and virtual courses. Good luck.